they need to be food secure. We also think along the line of nutritional security, because food security is a means to nutritional security. So we put that into context and not just say, okay, we're providing them with just carbohydrates, but we try to make it like a balance. They can prepare for their family, and we sustain them for. We provide it to them, and like I said earlier on, that we try as much as possible to operate food for them. But if we don't have that, we still make sure that the food they will accept in most cases. So they are not they are not they do not like refuse what we provide to them because they're in critical need. They accept them as they are. However, one of the also need to look at that is helping to reduce the food waste. Restaurants or cuisines is the cooking practice where traditionally restaurants would when you need it, then maybe it's already available, they just warm it for you. But nowadays, when we visit the restaurants that we collaborate with as corporate organizations, they don't just have the food ready for you. When you come, that's when they prepare it. So it's a cooking practice that helps to reduce waste. So when we see that among the restaurants, we encourage it, and we tell them that, oh, that's what we also want to encourage as a food bank: reduce waste, and at the same time become more sustainable in how we manage the resources that will help to shape the food systems across our communities.
And are you observing like a long-term change in behavior or in practices?
Yeah, we collaborate with. We experiencing a big change in behavior. I told you, we also have what we call grocery platforms, grocery delivery platforms. So like Jumia, like Glovo. So what they do is to serve as a one-stop platform where all restaurants are subscribers to that platform. So whenever any of the restaurants clients or customers need food, they get it through Glovo, and once, because Glovo or Jumia is a delivery app, an application, technology application. So it also helps to reduce food waste, because any food that is supposed to go into waste is not taken back to the restaurants, all in the interest of food safety. Just like Dr. Azan said, the food is already contaminated along the way, so it goes to the delivery app like Glovo or Jumia, and food finds its way to the food bank. So we are one of the beneficiaries of such emerging technology, the role of delivery apps in reducing food waste along the food value chain. So we do that. We've been collaborating with such delivery apps for the past 5 years, and it's really been very helpful in providing food items and meals that we make available to our beneficiaries, and it's also helping to plug and reduce food waste from that level as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hassan, what can be done at the local and international level to minimize food waste and to ensure that food surplus is being redirected to those in need? Mr. Gadebo just gave us some of the examples they have implemented. What could be other examples?
Okay, so according to studies, awareness is the key. It all starts with awareness, because as I said before, food waste is more of a behavioral, cultural thing. Do you want me to give some tips on the personal level? Okay.
Why not?
So for instance, many studies stress on the fact that no one should go and buy food when they are hungry. Because when you are hungry, you tend to buy items that you don't actually need. So you end up having too many items in your kitchen. By the time you want to use them, they would be expired. So that's why it's important to write a list of items we need before going to the supermarket. It's very important to practice what we call first expired, first out. So from time to another, let's say once a month, we check what we have. And in case any item is expiring soon, we put it at the front so that we consume it before it gets expired. It's very important to follow recipes because when we follow recipe, the chance of failure is less. Many people like to improvise, to make recipes on their own. And in many cases, the end product is not up to the expectations, so we waste it. That's why we have to follow recipes and to look at the yield of each recipe. So for example, if I need to prepare food for 2 people, and the recipe that I get online or from the cookbook yields 10 portions, I need to divide all the ingredients by 3, let's say. In other words, it's important to plan what we prepare. Also, it's important to think before wasting any product. For example, in case I have a low quality tomato in the fridge, instead of wasting it, I can simply squeeze it and drink its juice because the juice would have exactly the same nutritional benefits as if it comes from a top quality and top grade tomato. So it's important to always think about what we waste. Also, it's important to reach out to charity organizations like food banks. Anytime we have any special occasion, a birthday, an iftar during Ramadan, and we expect to have a surplus of food, it's important to make sure that we pack the surplus in a clean, safe way and donate this extra food to a food bank, or it could be to needy family that we know of surrounding us, like neighbors and so on. And I would say it's very important to always consider food waste as we say in Arabic, hadr al-na'ma. Food is a blessing, and many people don't have it. So when we waste food, we're not only harming our pockets, we're harming the environment because food waste has environmental, economic ramifications. When we waste an apple, we're actually wasting water, wasting pesticides, wasting efforts of the farmer. So the awareness is very important. And actually, we had one recent study that we published in the Journal of Cleaner Production, which is a top journal, about the importance of awareness. So when people get aware about food waste and its ramifications, it turned out that their practices got improved significantly. So that's why what we're doing now with you now, the civil society, the NGOs, the government should all collaborate in raising awareness because, again, it all starts with awareness.
Sure. Mr. Ahmed, at a more macro level, what can be done to reduce food loss and waste, so both food loss and waste, and what is the role of technology, or to what extent technology and data analytics can help in this domain?
Sure, thank you. I'll take from what Dr. Hassan said. At the broad level, by the way, we do have, as FAO, we have the voluntary guidelines on reducing food loss and waste. And there is a technical platform as well, that is a knowledge exchange platform that you can check on our regional office website and FAO's global website as well. But let's say there are some issues at the supply chain level that we need to take care of. And analytics, as you mentioned, Dr. Shahad, is quite important over here, so that we basically manage the pilferages or the loss issues to start with. As I said, there are loads and loads of losses at the borders, by the way, just for the delays and improper handling. So we have to see that. Then through the advanced analytics, we can also see that where we have some of, let's say, the food safety concerns or rejections due to, pest and residues and, all of these type of issues. And how can we manage that, if we have a good anticipatory action taken into that one. Then at the broad level, of course, consumer awareness is also broad, that Dr. Hussain said. But, unfortunately, if you look at the human history or the evolution of the economic so-called independence or empowerment, as humans, we tend to, let's say, extend our, as we say in Arabic, ikhtiyar, or our power, to basically show that, I can afford. That somehow it's a transitionary cycle that, comes in all societies as a generation. And I think our region is going through that transition. So probably maybe in a couple of generations, we would be over that. It's a very natural cycle. In some parts of the world, they are already over with it. So, and then the other policies, by the way, most importantly, again, ignored one, is when the food comes to the distribution cycles, points, most importantly, the retail point. How do we manage with the expired food? Now, we know that in the large retail stores, large chains, there is a huge food that gets expired and thrown away. First and foremost, we can anticipate through the advanced analytics that how can we manage that food. For example, if from the store they cannot sell very close to the expiry date, there could be alternative uses for that. And we have to see what are the alternative uses for it. And secondly, in France, they did an experiment recently that they said, okay, X is the expiry date. Let us see what happens 2 days plus X day. And in fact, nothing happened. Of course, I mean, the scientists would probably disagree, but a lot of times we are extra cautious. And the food companies and retailers are extra cautious, and probably for a good reason, they have to be extra cautious. But at the broad level, there might be some intermediaries. Let's say some of the food banks can intervene into that. I mean, food banks are mostly, as you know, at the consumption or the consumer level, but they can work a lot at the retail level to anticipate these type of issues and try to find the alternative use. And then, of course, government can support. The third thing could be that, this is a very innovative thing, not experimented anywhere, but we floated an idea last year, is that you can probably, and of course, to a certain extent, the retail outlets do that. For example, anything, milk or others closer to the expiry date always is on the sale, that is an easy part. But why does the government not do that, encourage that anything that is closer to that, we will subsidize you in a way, or, something like that, that we take out immediately, from all of the retail stores at a certain price and have a distribution system, that distributes it quickly. So it basically invests that so-called subsidy in buying that and even giving free, because that is a better social protection or social security system than giving the coupons for the food and others. But again, it has certain scale limitation. This will not solve all of that, but these type of innovative solutions, but more importantly, in this case, it has to be public-private partnerships and based on the very advanced trends and analytics, that is really helpful. But as I said, at a much broader and higher level, we do have guidelines on the food loss and waste, and there are some good practices. For example, NEMA initiative in UAE is a good example to see, where the Emirates Foundation has agreed upon with some voluntary code of conduct with the restaurants and food outlets in Emirates, to see that, how they are managing with all of these food waste and so on and so forth. So I'll stop here because I think we are already over time. Thank you.
Yes. So as a last question for all the speakers, Mr. Ahmad already mentioned few points that need to be addressed to solve food waste and food loss in general. What could be the priorities, or what should be the priorities for government to improve, let's say, food security and to be ahead in terms of fighting hunger and supporting vulnerable communities? So what are the, let's say, the first or two priorities that each government should be setting in order to improve food security? So I'm gonna ask each one of you, please, to give a final opinion on that before we take a few questions. So we can start with Dr. Hussein, if you want.
So sorry, because I had some connection issues. So your question was about the role of governments?
Yes, we did. We already covered different aspects of food security. We started talking about food availability, production. Then we talked about access, food utilization, speaking of consumption patterns and food waste and loss and food safety. So now what I'm trying I'm trying to wrap up the webinar with like final opinion on what should be the priorities or what should be the government priorities to promote food security in their countries.
Okay, so let me talk about food waste in particular, being my area of expertise. For example, in countries like Lebanon, there are laws. For example, in Lebanon, in 2020, we got a law by the parliament that gives incentives to supermarkets that have agreements with charity organizations in terms of donating the safe food at the end of the day instead of wasting it. However, this law hasn't been implemented yet. So the laws are very important, but also we're talking about not only developing or setting them, but also implementing them, because the key issue in this part of the world is not in the laws themselves, but in implementing them. It's very important to set baselines. Actually, in the Arab world, only Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates have baselines for food waste. And when we say baseline, we're talking about quantifying and characterizing food waste in order to see the magnitude of the problem and design effective interventions. Unfortunately, in the Arab region, only 2 countries out of maybe 20 have done this exercise. So support to develop baselines is very important, and baselines can be developed in collaboration between the government and academic institutions. For example, in Lebanon, we do research about food waste. We publish it in top journals, but this is not enough, because unless we have like the umbrella, the government taking a part of it, our studies will simply articles and journals instead of being like part of a national strategy to reach a baseline. I would say the government should arrange awareness campaigns. For example, in Lebanon, our institution, the Lebanese American University, partnered with the Ministry of Economy and Trade. We organized an inter-university competition to design a poster for increasing awareness on food loss and waste. This competition was very effective because it engaged university students in food waste, and the winning poster was shared on billboards and on different social media outlets. So the government cannot find a solution for food waste alone. Food waste requires the collaboration and synergy between different stakeholders. And I think what I just mentioned can be a good starting point to reduce food waste significantly.
Thank you. Mr. Gadibo, your opinion on the priorities?
Yeah.
We're not able to hear you.
The role of the government and organized private sector cannot be overemphasized. So that's a collaborative intervention where all the necessary ministries or government agencies and the private sector come together would be helpful, because I could remember some of the most impactful achievements at the government level in Nigeria happened when like three ministries, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy, and Ministry of Trade, like came together and really made impact on the economy. So that's for the economy. Are we able to do the same thing for food? Because food as a basic necessity, can we have trade, agriculture, and
Water
if it's
and energy.
finance? Yes, energy also, because energy is really key for especially for the inflation going to around 33-34% now in Nigeria, and the food inflation for last month, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation for food prices was around 40%. So that's really is really huge. So if all these ministries and the private sector can come together, it will.
I think Mr. Gadibu, we're not able to hear you. Is it only me?
I think his connection
Yeah.
is stuck.
Okay.
Yes.
So we mainly. So let's move to Mr. Ahmed until Mr. Gadibu's connection is restored. So Mr. Ahmed, what would you like to add for policies to improve or actions to improve food security?
Sure, very shortly, first and foremost, the governments have to reorient or repurpose their expenditures or the public finance that is deployed in the food security in form of subsidies, in form of public sector expenditure, public sector development in the agriculture and food security, so that it yield in a system that is more efficient, more inclusive, more sustainable, more resilient. That is the most important, because we do have a lot of expenditures, but they do not really meet this criteria. Secondly, the role of private sector needs to be mainstreamed. We cannot just say that the private sector is a partner, but if you look at the food security policies, often government thinks it as a knee-jerk reaction and does not really include private sector as part of the solution. Third, we need to enhance the role of trade and investment in ensuring food security. Fourth, to enhance the role of technology in improving the productivity and the supply chains and managing all of that. And then next, we should tap into the domestic or the regional resources, national or regional, as much as possible. And finally, to transform the diets and the dietary patterns, as colleagues have said, how do we consume and what do we consume? We do not need to have the same food 12 months a day, because our generations were alive without having that one. So we have to be a bit, let's say, responsible citizens and consumers, all of us. So these are the actions, I would say, in short, to ensure food security. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Gadibu, we had to move until you restore your connection. Please, if you have anything to add, please
Yes.
tell us.
Yeah. So the role of technology, as you rightly said, in reducing the post-harvest losses is very important. It's critical because across the value chain for specific crops, especially when those crops are in seasons, like fruit and vegetables, there's always a glut in the markets. And there's no government intervention like in the developed countries, where government could buy or government could intervene through a more advanced food banking model. Yeah. So in an African setting where this doesn't exist, then there's always problem of just wasting, contributing to climate change through methane emissions. So there's need for government to further recognize the role of food banking. In Africa, food banking is still like emerging, where we have maybe just 12 countries where food bank